What is going down, Sourdough Squad and Spicy Squad? We are back for another State of the Franchise episode. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Pro Bowl, some snubbery, also the end of the year for a couple 49ers players, and a little bit of review is in order as we look at the final game coming up against the Rams, too. It's almost like a playoff preseason game. So we'll talk about all that kind of stuff. Of course, we've seen the conversations about risk versus reward with the rest and all that good stuff. So we'll talk about it all. But you guys already know what to do. Drop your spicy sourdoughs in the chat, and we're going to get after it right now. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Jason Aponte, year 3 of State of the Franchise, almost coming to an end, at least from a regular season perspective. And I guess we could say the same for the 49ers. But before we get into all that, I guess we do our normal vibe check. What are the vibes like over there on the East Coast?
It's great. You get a haircut. Things are different. The air tastes better. Food tastes better. You walk around with a little bounce in your step. This week feels light, no pressure. And that's just kind of what this show is going to be. It's going to be reflecting on an amazing season, looking at all the accolades that the 49ers have been able to rack up, possibly someone who should have been in this game, this Pro Bowl game, which the 49ers are not going to be playing in. I've said that many times. The 49ers are going to be playing in the Pro Bowl. So whoever you feel got snubbed, they're going to get a chance to substitute for your favorite 49er. And obviously the Gingerbread Bowl. The Gingerbread Bowl. And how do we get Brad Graham on the sideline when it's Carson Wentz against Sam Darnold and Brad Graham on the sideline? We've got to get it gingered up like all the way, right?
That's what I'm saying. I saw Leo's tweet about the Ginger Bowl, and we got to get this ginger beard on the sideline, get some ginger expertise, maybe call in Andy Dalton to commentate or something like that. But yeah, we got the Ginger Bowl coming up. Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold, former number 1 overall pick, right? Carson Wentz back in the day, and number 3 overall.
Go after it as my AirPods continue to fight.
Hopefully my audio switched back up.
Yep.
There we go. These headphones love to compete with this mic. It sees it. It's like, you know what? I'm coming after you, pal. So we got some ginger quarterbacks facing off. It's going to be an interesting one. Matt says, "Hey, Ulta boy, happy New Year! Greetings from your dynasty and best ball champion." Let's talk about that. Did he win the best ball?
It sounds like he's going to. I mean, at this point, I haven't checked, but Matt has an incredible team. I think the only person I was contending was Justin, and unfortunately, Kyron Williams won't be playing in this game, who has absolutely carried him. What an amazing back end pick by Justin. But Matt is talking about our dynasty league. I'm a 2-time champion. I got knocked off in the championship. I was going for a 3-peat. But Matt deserves it, man. He had a great team and they competed very well. So yeah, man, good for Matt. And also, hey, Ulta boy, has to do with the fact that I made a joke on Twitter, and it seems like it's getting lost, and some people are just not understanding what I was talking about. But hey,
are you surprised?
Who know, a little. I feel
thought
like
I was gonna hit a little bit more clear.
Oh yeah, I felt like it was very clear. But hey, look, it's Twitter. If you say something, you can't really take it back, and it's cool, man. If you know, you know. If you know, basically. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of, who won best ball? Who won the State of the Franchise League?
Well, there is one more week. There is one more week.
Oh, there is.
But there is one more week. But right now, it looks like again Matt has the best shot. Justin had a shot, but he needs Kyron Williams, and Kyron Williams is not going to play. And to be fair, again, that's an amazing pick. I'll pull it up and we'll talk about it at the end, but he's on his way and he's going to win himself a healthy $64. Who doesn't need extra money? And that's why we play on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Aponte. So next year we'll run it back and hopefully you guys join. Yeah. Oh,
Sleeper.
Yeah. Promo code Aponte. Oh, what? We're beefing? Sleeper, cut the check, man. I'll come work with you too. It's all right, man. Come work with you. Cut the check.
No, it's hilarious, man. So we'll take a look at who is going to win the State of the Franchise Best Ball League. Again, I'm just hoping not to be last. That's the only thing that I'm looking for. But speaking about someone who maybe came last, we'll talk about the guys who got in, but let's talk about some of the guys who didn't get into the Pro Bowl. If you had to kind of talk about the biggest snub of the Pro Bowl, who would you pick?
Man, everything in me, because we do, 49ers content, wants to say Brandon Ayuk. But I would throw this out to you guys. How can you say Brandon Ayuk is a snub and Amon-Ra St. Brown is not in there? Amon-Ra St. Brown? Can we just look objectively? I know we're all 49ers fans. We're hyped for Brandon Ayuk. He's setting numbers with yards per catch with so many catches far behind, right? Like he has 72, but he has less targets than everybody else, and he's going to finish, I think, fourth in the league in yards. But how can it not be Amon-Ra St. Brown? Amon-Ra St. Brown has been a dog, and he's incredible. I get it, guys. We want all our Niners to make it. We might as well just make it, hey, Niners against the AFC, because you could do that, right? But man, Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's got to be one of the big ones, man. Really, seriously, Brad. And the Sun God.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Was huge on him coming out of USC in the draft. Thought he was super slept on. But again, it's a numbers thing, right? Like you look at the numbers and basically Amon-Ra St. Brown came away with 54 more yards on the year, but he had 112 receptions to Brandon Ayuk's 72. That's absolutely crazy. Amon-Ra had 2 more touchdowns, but also too, it's the context. Amon-Ra St. Brown's the number 1 wide receiver for Jared Goff in that offense, where Brandon Ayuk, you remember Brandon Ayuk tweeted about it in the offseason? He's like, I'm the 4th option in this offense, and I went for over 1,000 yards. He kind of is the 4th option. Now, obviously, him and his rapport with Brock Purdy has been phenomenal, which is why we do see him get a ton of targets, and especially deep balls downfield from Brock Purdy. But I can absolutely give credit to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's phenomenal, but I think, man, you got to look at what Brandon Ayuk is doing on 72 catches. 1,300 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. And remember, in that Rams game, week 2, he got hurt on the first series of the game and just gutted it out. Didn't really do anything. Didn't play that following week. So he started out hot against Pittsburgh, got hurt in that Rams game, wasn't able to play the following Thursday night game, and kind of had to get back on track. So I think, both guys are deserving, I would say. And even if you look at Puka Nacua, who got over 1,400 receiving yards as a rookie,
and with a few more yards, is about to break the rookie receiving record.
It's freaking insane what Puka's doing, man. And again, we know, Cooper Kupp was in and out, and Puka's just been a volume machine. And I think it was KP who kind of pointed out, Brandon Ayuk's basically getting dinged for volume, because if you take his volume and you extrapolate it, when you look at Tyreek Hill, a guy that you talked about as potentially being the MVP candidate, he got 158 targets compared to Brandon Ayuk's 101. So basically, 50, he got 57 more targets than BA, which would be 50% of BA's total targets over the season. So it's I think I get it. This is priming Brandon Ayuk for a Pro Bowl season next year. I think more accolades next year. It's kind of how it always is. But again, man, a lot of these guys had phenomenal years. DJ Moore had a great year. All things considered, playing with a couple quarterbacks.
I said that as well too, and everybody just says, look, there's only so many spots. There's only so many spots in the Pro Bowl. if you feel that's a 49er that's not, I mean, a player that's not a 49er won't be there, take solace in this. The 49ers won't be playing in the Pro Bowl. So there will be 9 spots wide open for someone else to get in. Amon-Ra's going to take someone's spot. The same thing, DJ Moore. I think the best way that I could put it, Brad, especially because I'm the wide receiver connoisseur, we are going through a wide receiver time that is unprecedented, in my opinion. And I don't want to make this recency bias. But Justin Jefferson is not going to get in. Mike Evans is doing things that nobody's ever done at the position. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Ayuk. Like, you're literally watching some of the best wide receiver talent this league has ever seen, ever. And again, it's not recency bias. It's giving respect to everyone. And I'm sure there's other people that we're forgetting, but there's only so many spots. And the fact that 49er fans show out in the way that they do with voting is incredible, man. I mean, I think they had the highest vote total. It makes sense. It was literally almost every single starting position for the 49ers was going to be in the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl at the end of the day is a popularity contest. And it is something that triggers things in certain people's contracts.
Yes.
But I do want to make sure we reflect on the fact that we are watching some of the best wide receiver play that maybe this league has ever seen, right? Like, the idea that Mike Evans is 1,000 yards in consecutive seasons more than anybody, not Jerry Rice, not Randy Moss, not Calvin Johnson. Yeah, 10, 11 now, right?
Yeah,
like,
damn.
He's doing things that nobody's ever done. It just speaks to how much talent is in the league, and we should appreciate that. And I think that's all I want to say.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think we can have a conversation about Brandon Ayuk and him believing he should be in the Pro Bowl, with also giving respect to the other wide receivers as well. Because as me and Jason, we're fans of a lot of players in this league. Like, we do the draft stuff. Like, again, St. Brown was a guy that I really liked coming out of the draft.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go. Say it. You say it.
Call it.
You say it. All right. Dalvin Cook was signed for the playoffs with the Baltimore Ravens. Sounds like Melvin Gordon's practice squad spot is taken. He will be joining the Ravens for the playoffs. I will let the comments dictate what they feel about that. I don't feel that moves the needle, but Dalvin Cook is still a name, Brad Graham.
He is still a name. That is very true. That is a fact. He is a name. So Dalvin Cook, reaction going to the Ravens. Obviously, the San Francisco 49ers have an opportunity to play the Ravens in the Super Bowl. That will be the only time that they would be able to see them. We do know that the Ravens have a lot of injuries at the running back position this year. No J.K. Dobbins. Mitchell got hurt there at the end, who was having a real breakout season. And so they get Cook to the practice squad. Is Cook cooked? I don't know. He couldn't beat out Breece Hall. I mean, Breece Hall's a great running back.
Breece Hall's a dog.
He's really good. But, maybe you would think they would try to work a little bit of committee, and they said, no committee. It's just Breece Hall. So it is what it is. I don't think it's
off
that
the ACL
crazy.
too, Brad. Off the ACL too. That means next year, Breece Hall is going to be off that ACL another year when he's literally supposed to be back to 100%. That's scary. It's scary. It's scary for fantasy.
I was just going to say, and his values, his ADP is probably going to be low unless some buzz starts to pick up. But you see what he did this year, and you look at the Jets offense as a whole, it's the perception is going to remain. So his ADP is probably going to be low. You'll be able to get a value there. But with Dalvin Cook going to Baltimore, they need bodies. Melvin Gordon scored a touchdown last week. So will it be a game changer? That remains to be seen. I don't necessarily think so. If he couldn't provide an impact on a struggling Jets offense, who knows? Change of scenery, change of culture could help. But it's not something that I'm over here shaking in my boots over. Like, it's like that makes sense. It makes sense for both parties for him to land there.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I finally pulled it up. It's over, actually. I think our best ball league is closed. It is closed. So make sure you check your underdog accounts. Matt won. And look, Justin was right behind him. Justin, you won $34. I'm not, I'm not too worried about what happened. So it's done. Shout out to Matt McCose. Justin
What
was
place
number
did
2.
I get? What place did
Okay,
I
let's
get?
go to that. Let's go to
That's what I
that.
care
Let's
about.
just take a look.
Not
You know
last
what's
place.
funny, Brad Graham? I finished 6th. You finished 7th.
Let's go. We were making a comeback too. We had
And
Love
listen,
playing hot at the
and
end.
this man didn't even like draft his team. Like he just got auto picked that
I got
time.
auto
But
picked
hey,
like half the roster, and then I just panic picked like 7 dudes. I was like, all right,
so
just
the
don't get
winners
last place. That's all I care about.
the winners are Niner Fan 408. That's Matt. He got $64. Justin got $34. Elmhart 777. JCE 3781 got $10. And congrats to you guys, man. Think about what we put up. We put up $10. JCE got his money back. Everybody else got that. So hey, congrats to everybody, man. A lot of fun, and we'll do it again next year. We might do 2. So just make sure you guys are well. I don't want to keep the sleeper underdog beef going, Brad. So let's just
Hey, well, it's like
keep
that.
it
It's like
at
that meme now of Crips Bloods holding up the the
Hey, sleeper, I came to you guys too and said, hey, I'd love to partner up. I use them for all my fantasy leagues, man. It just I took that personal.
I
Like for
could
me,
see
I
that.
just took that personal.
I could see that. But nonetheless, shout out to everyone who joined the State of the Franchise Best Ball League on Underdog. And it was cool. Like I said, I'm just happy I didn't finish last because we happened to draft on the day that Nick Bosa signed his contract extension. So as you know me, when stuff's going down and I'm on live, I'm half the time posting to other places. So like I was just happy that I didn't come in last place. 7th to me, that's a win. That's a W. I'll take that any day of the week. Especially based on how that draft went. That was one of the worst drafts I've ever been a part of. So
And
I'll
look at
take
that.
it.
You know
I'll
what's
take it.
crazy? That's what's funny about fantasy, right? People do research all year and they go through and they're like, "Oh, this is my pick, this is my guy," and everything. And then there's always that guy in your league that either auto drafts, doesn't necessarily know why are you
Doesn't
taking
do
this guy so early,
anything.
right? Like, why are you taking this guy so early? And they end up ahead of you, and all you did was all this research and everything. It's just so funny to me. Like that's fantasy. That is literally fantasy. Like you could have a draft where they project you to be A+, everything. You end up in last. You got people that are like at the bottom that end up at first. Fantasy's a funny thing, man. It really is. So
It is. It's fun though. A lot of fun. So we'll bring it back next year. Congrats to all the winners. Congrats, man. I'm just happy to be not in last place. So that's a win in
Yep.
my book. I'll take it. So snubbery talk. Yeah, whatever. I
Brandon
think
Ayuk,
both
Dre
of,
Greenlaw,
yeah, I agree. Dre Greenlaw.
Mitch Wisnowski.
Mitch Wisnowski. See, this is why like I think this makes Jason's opinion more impactful because let's keep it 100, right? Like you have had constructive feedback for both Greenlaw and Mitch Wisnowski throughout their time. And
Yep.
for you to sit here and say, man, those guys got snubbed, that speaks to like your ability to be fluid and evaluate what's happening in front of you. And I think Dre Greenlaw has had a phenomenal season. He's been dealing with injuries, right? So he's kind of been
Yep.
riding that wave of just staying healthy. But Greenlaw is phenomenal, man. He really is. I've gained a lot of respect for him this year because I was doing more defensive tape work than I had in the past. And I was like, damn, this dude's everywhere. He's everywhere. So I love that. I love that you agree that those guys are snubs.
Yeah, but can we stop giving Bobby Wagner the like? Can we
The
stop giving
legacy
Bobby
award.
Wagner?
The
Yeah, just
legacy
like,
vote?
hey, it's Bobby Wagner. He's a Pro Bowler. He's not. He's not. He's just not. I hate that. Look, I am not taking away anything from Bobby Wagner. I do believe that Bobby Wagner one day is going to be in Canton.
He's first
100%.
ballot, probably.
Yeah, 100%. But come on, man. Like I don't know what fans are watching. I don't know what they think. I just don't understand how you could literally sit there and say Bobby Wagner played football better than Dre Greenlaw this year. And it's just It's tough, man. Like, again, there's only so many spots. Obviously, guys are going to bow out from injury. And obviously, the Pro Bowl is nothing more. It's a flag football game. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not when Sean Taylor was blowing up, rest in peace, Sean Taylor.
The
It's not
game
when
itself doesn't matter. It's
no.
just the right to call yourself a Pro Bowler.
And some of those people, when they get selected, it triggers something in their contract. 100%. But Bobby Wagner, man, like, you got to stop with these Make-A-Wish picks with him. Like, just giving him the.
Damn.
I mean, look. I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry. Look, Bobby Wagner is going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind. But come on, man. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? You know that man was not out here playing football at that level. So, again, but you can make this argument for every single sport. Everything's popularity contest. Allow myself to be vulnerable in front of our viewers about a certain player on the New York Yankees that I love that made a lot of All-Star games that I feel he shouldn't have made. Derek Jeter.
No.
I love Derek Jeter. But when you start to say 12-time All-Star, dude, 4 of those were just based on his name. And he didn't deserve to be there, right? So for us to get wrapped up in like who got snubbed, this and that, you have to look at the names, popularity contest. You have to look at who's actually voting for Pro Bowlers. Do you assume that they're watching Seattle film? Do you assume that they're watching like every single team so they can like say, hey, this guy doesn't deserve, like Buda Baker making the Pro Bowl over Antoine Winfield? Insane. Makes no sense, not on this earth, not on any, because he hasn't even played this year. So MLB, NBA, I'm sure maybe NHL, I guess, too. I don't really follow that, but it's all about kind of the people who are, I hate using this word, casual fans that look on the ballot and say, well, it's Bobby Wagner. He had to be really good this year, and just like pencil his name in. So don't get too distraught in this. But
yeah,
this is like 2 or 3 years in a row with like Bobby Wagner where I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get this one. And Bobby Wagner is going to be in Canton. I just want to make sure I get that clear.
Yeah, it's a popularity contest. It's a marketing award. Who's marketed their name the best? That type of stuff. So it is what it is. But again, it means a lot to the guys. And again, I know it doesn't mean a lot to 49er fans because we all think the 49ers are going to be playing in a different bowl.
No, they are. But it meant a lot to Fred Warner, who said it hurts my heart that Dre Greenlaw wasn't recognized. So these guys know who should be there, and they understand. Yeah. I think they understand the popularity contest aspect, and they also understand, like, damn, I'm still hurting for my guys. So, like,
it's still a legacy thing.
Right. Those guys will brush
because,
it
like
off,
you talked about with Jeter, 12-time All-Star. That's how they're introduced. It's a legacy thing. You go to their Wikipedia, it says 3-time Pro Bowler. Like it's just one of those things. When you look back, it's a legacy award. I would say more than anything else these days. So it is what it is. But any surprises? Shout out to Charvarius Ward, first time getter. Brock Purdy, first timer. You look at everyone else. I didn't have too many questions, concerns with any of it. Christian McCaffrey finally gets into the Pro Bowl after missing last year. Kyle Juszczyk, 8-time Pro Bowler. Fred Warner becoming a mainstay. Hargrave, Pro Bowler. Nick Bosa.
That's
Kittle,
a surprise.
Trent Williams.
That's a surprise. Hargrave.
Bosa or Hargrave?
Hargrave. That's a surprise. Not that he's played poorly, but when I think back to Hargrave in the season, I don't think I could say Pro Bowler. And that's not because he's played poorly. It's not because he's played poorly. Like, if we went through everything, right, and we went through all the teams, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, there's probably guys out there that played better than Javon Hargrave this season. So I will say that Javon Hargrave was a little bit of a surprise. But again, it's a vote, and 49er fans voted him in. So, yeah.
It's not all popular vote. It is also, I think, players and coaches also vote on it. So that's why, like, we had 13 number one vote getters by the popular vote. Obviously, not all those guys were able to get in. I mean, I thought the thing is, it's like we typically look at that, Pro Bowl as being like a stat-driven thing, and Hargrave didn't put up crazy stats, but he definitely made an impact, and his impact was felt. I think back to that Jaguars game, just felt like a signature Hargrave game where he impacted
Out of
it
the
in
bye.
so many different ways. Like
Don't
he
let-
didn't show up on the stat sheet with all the sacks, but he forced like 3 sacks in that game.
Don't let Hargrave get a bye week. Don't let him get a bye week. I'm gonna make a statement right now. I'm gonna make a
Okay.
statement right now on January 4th. Javon Hargrave is gonna show out in the divisional game regardless of the opponent. Javon Hargrave, everybody who has ever thought about his contract, ever thought about what is he doing. I said Mitch verse. I absolutely think that Mitch should be there. Javon Hargrave is going to have a standout game in the divisional game, regardless of the opponent. Whether it's the Monstars, the Rams, the Lions, the Cowboys, I don't care who it's going to be. Javon Hargrave is going to ball out because he's going to have this time to rest up his hammy. He's a veteran. Yeah, Hargrave, man. Hargrave.
I think that's fair. I think that's really fair. I think Hargrave will ball for sure. But speaking of bye, the bye has triggered quite the interesting scenario for both.
I know he's trolling.
He's
So
absolutely
I'm gonna let it slide. But there is going to be someone if Darnold goes out there and throws like 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, right? And just like put it to like, oh, Kyle loves him. Like it's guys.
No, it's just going to be another. It's going to be another feather in someone's cap of trying to discredit what Brock Purdy has done this year. If Darnold comes out and has a good game,
all 3 of the Sam Darnold truthers are going to use this as, aha, see, like we can use this. Like it's just for me.
Dan Orlovsky, that's who I think of. He said, I think at the beginning of the year that the 49ers could win a Super Bowl with him. So
just stop. Look, I'm not trying to not. You know what? And I want to make sure I apologize too because a lot of people have like said, you don't have to knock down Darnold. Yeah, he's a part of the team. I'm not gonna like sit here and talk crazy about him. But come on, man. Look, haven't we had enough about
we need more
quarterback
controversy?
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Let's manufacture it right here on State of the Franchise.
No, we will not.
Breaking news.
Let the
Sam Darnold takes over as quarterback 1 from here on out.
Let the record show
he's good.
That Jason Aponte believes that Brock Purdy, no matter what, is the 49ers franchise quarterback. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm done with it. We're done with this. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about any other quarterbacks. It's done. It is done. It's done. Okay, guys? We're done with it. That's it.
Yeah. But it will be an interesting situation. So let's set the stage. Obviously, San Francisco 49ers clinched the 1 seed. And then this is going to transition us, I think, into a broader conversation about this, kind of about the rest and all that type of stuff, because it is one of the main talking points amongst our community right now. And now we're getting feedback from a bunch of former players who have found themselves in these scenarios. So I find this conversation to be fascinating. But as we know, the 49ers clinched the 1 seed with the craziness that had happened with everything falling our way, starting with the trickle-down effect of Dallas-Detroit. Then you get AZ upsetting the Eagles at Philly. Crazy game. And, of course, all the amazing stuff to come out of that situation. But that has put the 49ers in a position where they don't need to put out Christian McCaffrey. They don't need to put out Brock Purdy. Fred Warner earlier this week was talking about the entire mindset heading into Washington is we got to win these 2 games to get the 1 seed. That changes. Brock Purdy's now not going to play. CMC's now not going to play. We know that Tashawn Gibson is likely not going to play, and there could be more additional players that won't play. So my question to you, Jason, is less about Darnold Purdy, more so, are you concerned at all about potentially around 3 weeks before Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Tashawn Gibson, potentially Trent Williams play a football game again, which will be in the divisional round? What is your thoughts on the rest versus rust conversation?
I think Kyle Shanahan summed it up perfectly because I wrote an article around his transcript when he talked about it, and he spoke directly about Trent Williams and about like, the whole rest thing. He goes, but did you see him after a month off? Almost alluding to the fact that the best left tackle who's ever played the game of football was not exactly at top shape after a bunch of rest. And this is the crux of the discussion. Rest, being sharp. And I wanted to go back to what you said about Fred Warner, because Fred Warner talked about the last time the 49ers had the number 1 seed, which was in 2019 with the Dre Greenlaw stop. And he said, if we lose that game, we're the 5 seed in that time. We're the 5 seed. We didn't realize until after the tackle that we're the number 1 seed. But this time, we don't have to do anything this time. And Deebo Samuel's talked about it. Kyle Shanahan has talked about it about, hey, let's make sure that we continue to practice hard. We keep our habits, all those things. You're going to see Trent Williams on Sunday because it's important. It's important for Trent to stay that way because Trent has to be. It's imperative. We talk about Deebo Samuel. I mean, or I do at least. I talk about Deebo Samuel being the heartbeat of this offense. But Trent Williams not being 100% and not being straight up, healthy or sharp, that's way more of a detriment than we want to believe it is. Kyle Shanahan said it. It's not me. You can go back and look at the transcript. He said, I don't want to give too much because Trent Williams, after a month, when he came back from the injury, didn't look like Trent. And 49er fans, I want to make sure that we say one more thing. There's only a certain amount of players that can play on game day. There's 11 on offense, 11 on defense. It's 22 right there. Think about your special teams. You're going to see guys. So I don't want you guys to freak out if you see a starter playing in the second quarter, third quarter, right? Like, it's a numbers game. Jason. It's a numbers game. And this is why I don't envy the position that Kyle Shanahan is in, because there's going to be no right answer. Fans one way or another are going to say, man, why is he still playing? There's only a certain amount of players that can play. You can't bench all 22 starters. You cannot bench them. It's impossible. So this week is going to be very interesting to see the reaction to who's going to play. Obviously, the only thing that matters coming out, the only thing that matters is just health. That's it, right? But there is something to the idea of sharpness. Who needs to stay sharp? Who doesn't? Who can you trust? I don't need Christian McCaffrey to play in his 2-3 weeks. I don't need him to play. I'm not nervous about Christian McCaffrey coming out in the divisional game and forgetting how to play football. Not that Trent Williams will, but offensive line is such like a nuanced position in terms of keeping your groove that
continuity.
You need the one guy. You need the one guy that is going to anchor this entire offensive line to be at full strength. So when Kyle says, I saw him after a month and he didn't look like Trent, it's not damning. I think it's very honest. So again, like, don't get mad if you see guys that are starting. Don't get mad if you see guys that, you believe are contributors still playing. It's a numbers game. Only a certain amount of guys can play. It's not 53 every game day, right? It's not 53. It's 48. And then if you bring up practice squad guys, it's only 2. So let's just keep all that contextualized. That's it. You want to see everybody leave this game with no injuries, right? Because you're going to need the depth just in case, obviously, something happens, God forbid, in the playoffs. But you can't bench all 22 guys. It's just not going to happen. Like, Jalen Moore being back today is really good because then that means you can do Trent for a quarter and then get him out of there. Like, that's it, right? And then the reason that you're not going to play Brock Purdy is because Kyle Shanahan knows my offensive line is not going to be out there to protect him. And without Brock Purdy being healthy, you might as well kiss the season goodbye. And that's not a slight at Sam Darnold. It's just a slight at anybody who would lose their starting quarterback at this point. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I just don't think there's any right answer. And I don't envy, him being in that position to try to figure out who should play and who shouldn't, because I just don't think there's any right or wrong answer.
It's a tough one. And right on cue, Jennifer Lee Chan is reporting Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jonathan Feliciano, Spencer Burford, and Jalen Moore all returned to practice today. So I agree with you. I think, it becomes a hard conversation, right? Because if you ask the fans, like I literally did a poll on it, I think we had almost 20,000 votes. 85% said rest over basically rest versus rust. And I get it, right? Because you don't want to get injured. And we have dealt with so many injuries. Just go back to last year in the NFC Championship game with Brock Purdy. So it's very fresh in all of our minds. But the thing that I keep hearing and coming back to is momentum, right? We talk about momentum in sports, specifically football, all the time. And being able to stay ready to go and in that space to be able to compete at the highest level. I've heard now from Steve Young, Shannon Sharp, and Kyle Shanahan about how actually having a bye on top of resting players in the final week scares the crap out of all of them. I've heard it directly from Kyle Shanahan's mouth because his dad experienced getting cooked for resting players the final week, having a bye, and then getting beat by a team that had zero business beating them in the divisional round. It happened to Kyle's dad when he was a head coach at Denver. Shannon Sharp talked about it. It happened to Steve Young in 1987 when the Vikings beat them in the divisional round. And he talked about it just, I think, yesterday on KMBR, saying how he thinks that scar from that game put them in a position to where that never happened again because they realized, oh, we rested our guys. Then we got the bye and we got our teeth kicked in by a team that had no business doing it, and we were out. And so that's why I find this conversation fascinating. I find because it's like, what's the happy medium? I honestly think the best case scenario for this team probably would have been them having to win out. I think that would have been the best, but we'll see. I'm not trying to make it a bigger deal than it is because again, it's just something that's been. I've Kyle said this like a year or two ago in an interview, and it just stuck in my head because one, it was a cool story about him viewing this as a kid and watching his dad go through this. Now he finds himself in that same position, and it's like he talks about the literal PTSD that he had from watching that experience play out. Now he finds himself in that same situation, and it's like, so I'm not worried about Brock, to be honest. Like I have so much faith. We've watched so much tape of Brock. He seems like a guy who can literally just roll out of bed and play the quarterback position. He's so prepared. He's so sharp mentally. And those are the things that give me confidence in him, to be able to take a couple weeks off, and especially with what he's had to go through mentally and physically this season, it probably will help Brock a little bit. Just like I think the bye helped Brock kind of clear his mind, get back, get prepared, because we do have to take into account this dude was not throwing for 2.5 months due to UCL surgery. And since then, it's all gas, no break. So a break will probably help Brock a little bit. But to your point, I don't envy Kyle either because I think there's a balance. You have to balance this out. So CMC not playing makes perfect sense to me. He's dealing with a calf. We already know that dude's been a juggernaut all year. Put him in bubble wrap until the divisional round. Not worried about him. But I do imagine we will see the starters on the offensive line. Keep them in sync, in groove, in that game preparation mindset. And we'll see. I don't anticipate them playing the entire game, but I do anticipate them playing, and I think that is a good thing, again, barring injury. So as long as they get out of this game healthy, I think it's that balance, right? It's the balance that we're working through. So we'll see how it plays out, but there's a balance here that I know a lot of fans just, again, we have PTSD, we don't want injury, but you have to put yourself in that locker room. And these players are viewing it differently. The coaches are viewing it differently. It's much different than how we're viewing it from the outside. So there's a balance, I think, at play when it comes to this whole conversation.
Yeah, and I've got some numbers of number one seeds and how they end up finishing, because I think it's like this foregone conclusion that number one seeds are the ones who just roll to everything. I mean, although you've seen the San Francisco 49ers make pushes without being the number one seed, right? It's about who's the hottest
Yeah.
at the right time. But I just wanted to go through some numbers real quick. So last season, both the Eagles and the Chiefs made it to Arizona. That marked the 14th time in NFL history both number one seeds faced each other in the Super Bowl. 14. 14. How many Super Bowls are we on? 50-something? 14 times the number
58.
one seeds have faced each other. Yeah. Since 1990, 18 of 64 top seeds have lost in the divisional round. That's with 21.9% of top seeds losing in the championship round, which is 14 out of 64. 50% of top seeds have made it to the Super Bowl. So that's good for the 49ers, right? 50. So it's a 50-50 shot basically at this time, right? Like when you look at it that way. Since 1975, 52% of top seeds have actually raised the Lombardi. 16 from the NFC and 9 from the AFC before Kansas City won it again, which makes it 10. All of those things are interesting because I think when you look at the way, and this goes back to what Fred Warner said on his podcast about, I don't care about the number one seed, not meaning I don't want the number one seed, but number one seeds can get knocked off. The 49ers have knocked off number one seeds on their way to the NFC Championship game, right? It's never about that. Have you ever seen a number one seed where you look at them and you're just like, they're not like that? There's the fatal flaw. Someone with a correct game plan or the right personnel can dictate that and change things. I think that's all I just want to say about this. It's a 50% chance. So it's yes or no, right? Like at this point. And I think anybody who does any sort of betting, wagering, whatever it is you want to call, 50-50, it's not a bad thing, right? Like it's just one of the two things that'll happen.
The flip of the coin.
Right. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting for last season to have the Eagles and the Chiefs be the number one seed when a lot of people don't believe that the Philadelphia Eagles were the best team last season, obviously because Brock Purdy got injured in that game. But it is interesting to look through everything and see that there have been number one seeds that have been knocked off in the divisional game. There have been number one seeds that have lost in the championship game, right? And it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they weren't good during the regular season. It's just they ran into a team that either, is just hotter. Styles make fights. They got guys back from injury, right? Like a lot of that stuff gets lost in translation, right? In terms of guys showing up all of a sudden and now are healthy to help you with your stretch run. And I think people forget that a lot. Like they just forget it. Like it's just like, oh, they played bad during the regular season. Well, what if an impact player they had is now shown up and he's back? And it's just like not Tom Huzitz. It's like like in addition, like a Von Miller, right? Like or somebody like that. Like it's interesting to see the way number one seeds have played out. But obviously the goal is to have home field to make it easier on yourself. But those numbers are really good for me in terms of understanding that sometimes the teams with the number one seed aren't the team that is either favored or the team that you look to get it done. But I do think the 49ers are that team right now in the NFC that you look at and you say they have the best chance to roll everybody and kind of just run to the Super Bowl. And then they'll figure out who the opponent is when it comes to Las Vegas.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the squad at all in regards to capabilities or ability. It's just, again, I think back to that Ravens game. To me, that was a momentum-driven game. That was less about, it was, of course, always going to come down to execution, but it just feels like there are games that are strongly driven by momentum. I think, of course, you go back to early, playoff games with the 49ers where they got knocked out in situations like that, 2011 Niners, 13-3, getting beat by the Giants again, execution, momentum issues in those games. So I'm not concerned about the Niners. That's what I want to get across. I'm not concerned about Brock. I'm not concerned about CMC, none of that. I just want to make sure that the focus, energy, and momentum is the right spot. And as long as it is, 49ers are good to go. That's it.
And I think this team understands that. I don't think you have to worry about that. I think this team completely understands that. They have too many battle-tested guys. They've been there 2019. They know what it's like to be right there on the cusp of it. I don't think that should be lost. And I'm not trying to throw out these numbers to make anybody weary or anything like that. It's just, these are the facts. But every year should be
situation. It's a reality.
100%. Every year should be contextualized with the teams that you see, the opponents, right? Like, let's just say, right? Because it's possible, Brad Graham. Very possible. The 49ers face the Tampa Bay Bucks And then I don't know. Let's just like, and then this is a hypothetical. Let's just
The Rams.
the Seattle Seahawks and then or like the Seattle Seahawks and then the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? Like it's you can't look at everything else in history and say, oh, this is what they're destined for without knowing who the opponents are, knowing what your team has been doing, how they've been performing. Those numbers and everything else that I just cited, they shouldn't be any reason for you to cause concern. It should just be more like it's just a history lesson on how many teams have done it and how many teams have been able to finish the job at not as a number one seed. And again, it all goes back to what Fred Warner said. Doesn't matter about the number one seed. If you're not playing the best football, you're going to find yourself on the out looking in. So again, like that's just it really more than
That's
anything.
it.
I'm not trying to scare anybody. The 49ers are better than everybody. We know that. Stay healthy. You know, the only team that can stop them is them unless they're playing undisciplined, turning the football over, some goofy stuff happens. But you know, you should feel confident in this team, and I don't see why you're not at this point as a 49ers fan, especially when you look at the NFC landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with the NFC and the path to the Super Bowl going through Santa Clara, that puts the 49ers in a great spot. And
Yep.
so we understand it's just again, it keeps going back to momentum for me. Like we know how good this team is. You just don't want to get caught in a bad spot. So that's more of the fan inside of me. That's more of the guy who's been crushed, you know, time and time again, who's just like, all right, I'm hearing all these vets. Like I already kind of associate that, you know, like I get the momentum aspect, you know, as a former player, like you want to stay in groove and like having to go in and out. It's jarring to the system. So it's like, man, I just want to make sure we're good. But that PTSD is in the back of my head going like, hey, pal. Hey, pal.
I mean, look, trauma can't help but leak into your new experiences. It can't help. And that's that's life advice, right? That's what, so Michael's saying that's what I learned in therapy. You cannot take your past trauma into your future experiences, right? And I thank therapy for that so much. But I want to kind of twist this into the
it's very
season
easy. It's easier said than done, though. As
100%, 100%. But I do kind of want to twist this into the season finale. Brad, does it seem like the Rams are selling this game because they do not want to have to go to Detroit and they would rather face the Dallas Cowboys and they don't care if they end up at 7 and face the Dallas Cowboys, as opposed to going into Detroit, going in, Ben Johnson knows their offense very well. The idea that Matthew Stafford can't knock off Jared Goff, their offense is explosive. I want to know, Brad.
Detroit.
Yeah, I want to know, Brad. Do you feel like the Rams are selling this game to avoid the Detroit Lions so they can play the Dallas Cowboys? Because they won it back. They were this close. They were this close. Without a wonky play call at the end, or maybe Dan Campbell gets out of their way. By the way, I was watching the 2001 wild card game against the Giants. Dan Campbell played for the Giants. I didn't know that. Like he caught a pass and they're like, Dan Campbell. I was like, Dan Campbell? Like he kicks a helmet into the sideline. He was really upset. But I do think the Rams are selling this game because they are afraid of the Detroit Lions. Brad Graham, please react.
Yeah, no, I think that's part of it. The Rams had the opportunity to dictate who they want to play, essentially. And I think that's the point, is that the fact that they've decided, you know what, we're sitting down all our key players, and I think that might be part of it against a team that they actually would have a decent shot at beating with no Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold coming in, no CMC, probably going to rest their starters after halftime. The Rams have an opportunity to win this game. And if they wanted to control their own destiny by determining who they want to play, they know what they needed to do. And it wouldn't actually have been that difficult. So the fact that they're pulling kind of, to me, tells me that that's where their head's at. They're trying to play their role in affecting the seeding the way that they can. And I think that's kind of alludes to who they want to face. And listen, Jared Goff, former Rams guy, general manager, former Rams guy. I don't think the Rams want to. I don't think they do. I don't think they want to see them. I don't.
Script writers are sick right now because they almost had it, like right there. Like they had it in front of them. Like them going to Detroit, the guy you traded, like Matthew Stafford gets to go back and all those things. Like the script writers are sick right now. On the flip side of this, Brad, and I want to toss this to you, is there are some 49ers players that may suit up for this game that aren't necessarily starters that you do want to see get ramped up and get playing time, i.e., Jawan Jennings. Because there is a little bit of an element on third down that is lost without him on the field at this point. I do
Yeah.
want to see Jawan Jennings for large stretches in this game because I want him to get his legs back under him. I want him to get acclimated again, albeit not being with the quarterback that he's going to be playing with because Sam Darnold is going to start. But in my opinion, there is a little bit to this game in terms of one, you want to see what you have on your depth, right? Like, and guys are trying to show out and show that they deserve playing time if they are pressing the duty. But you do want to get guys who have been missing for a little while ramped all the way back up, and you want to make sure that you get them. And Joshua brings it up. I want to see Ray McLeod, right? Like, I want to see guys that need to get these games under their belt. So when it comes time and you turn on the lights for the divisional game, they're not playing in their first action. I think that's what's the most scary about this. And I think, again, it is a little bit of like, hey, I know what I have in Christian McCaffrey. Just wake him up out of the cold chamber and just push him out there on any week, and I'm straight. Like, I'm good. I don't worry about Debo. I don't worry about any of that. But Jawan Jennings is a vital part of this team, especially on third down. I do want to see him get more snaps and get himself back acclimated and get everybody going because you do need these guys to ramp up because there is a little bit of time in between these games. This goes all the way back to rest and sharpness, but there is a little bit of sharpness needs to be there with guys who have been not in the lineup for a while. So I would like to see guys who are coming back to the fold that are vital parts to actually get meaningful snaps in this game. And that's what I'll keep my eyes on in terms of this game because you're not going to evaluate anybody in this game in terms of, hey, this guy did well. It's against backups. It doesn't really matter. So you want to make sure that Jawan Jennings is ready to go. You want to see Ray McLeod get back into the fold, field some punts. And, you can simulate all that in practice you want, but you need game reps. So I think that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for in this game more than anything. It's like, what do guys that contribute, maybe not at the level of the 49ers stars, what do they look like in their first action? And Jair Brown's not going to play in this game, and he needs all this time that he can get back as well, too. Like all of these things are kind of nuanced when you talk about what player has been here and how long they've been playing or how much time they need. It's going to be interesting to see the guys that have contributed to this team and will contribute to kind of get their feet back under them. That's kind of what I'm saying here.
Yeah, for sure. I got completely sidetracked. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Did you see the thing what's going on? Did Dov Kleiman hack someone? I don't know.
I don't know.
I got totally swirled. I apologize.
Is he real?
That's what we're trying to figure out. But anyways, trying to get. I'm sorry, Jason.
You're good.
I had a big ADHD moment just now. Could you, for me,
reiterate? All right. So
very quickly,
essentially, the guys who are coming back from injury, right, that will be forced into duty, right? Again, Jawan Jennings isn't a starter, but he is vital to this team on third down. So you want to see meaningful snaps. You want to see him get his legs back under him. You want to see Ray McLeod field some punts, right, and get the feeling. You can't simulate game reps in practice. So that's it. More than anything, it's the guys who are contributors that aren't the top end guys that you want to make sure that you see get back out there, get their legs under them and see them contribute because they are going to be vital. And I do think the 49ers are missing something on third down without Jawan Jennings on the field because you're throwing the ball to Ronnie Bell. You're trying to get it to guys that necessarily haven't contributed. We all know third and Jawan, everything, and what Jawan brings in terms of blocking. For me, it's about seeing those guys more than anything and the depth of guys who, if God forbid something happens in the playoffs, have to be pressed into duty, right? Like guys that are not normally starters, right? Like, and you have to get in there and you have to you don't have time to say, hey, I haven't played in a while. It's one and done. So that's kind of what's interesting about this game a little bit. And that's probably what I'm looking for more than anything. I'm not going to learn anything about 49ers starters in this game. I know what they are. But it's more about the contributors and it's more about, can you get back into shape and can you start rounding into form more than anything?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And my point came back to me, and you also talked about it. I want to see Ray McLeod. That's who I'm looking for. His absence kind of was like, I think there was a point where I think we've all been a little frustrated with the return game for the 49ers. for a while now. It's been something that's been the 49ers have been trying to figure out.
Can I say something without everybody yelling at me? But I want to throw this at you. I think we're
Go for it.
frustrated because the guy returning punts wears number 10.
Oh, I know that. I know that PTSD is real for 49ers.
That PTSD never goes away. Never goes
Never
away.
goes away.
Ever. Never goes. Like when you see number 10 muff a punt, it's hard for you to not sit there and just like not look at the TV anymore and just look off into space and start thinking about number 10, getting a punt and what happened, right? Like, because we all feel like the 49ers would have won that Super Bowl.
PTSD is absolutely real when it comes to Kyle Williams. That's one of the most.
You didn't have to say his name. I said number 10.
I'm sorry. There's multiple number 10s that have given us some PTSD.
If I say punt return number 10, you know who it is. You don't have to say his name. He who shall never be named. It's almost every number 10, except for Zane Gonzalez. He who shall not be named is almost every number 10 except for Zane Gonzalez.
Someone's going to break the curse of the 10, and I hope it's Ronnie Bell.
Ronnie Bell, me too.
But yeah, I want to see Ray McLeod. That's one guy that I'm looking forward to seeing for sure. Just kind of get back there, get his legs back, and see what he can do and provide from a return perspective. So yeah, there's definitely things to watch for. There's definitely things to keep an eye on for this game. And again, the number one thing just come back to health, right? That's stay healthy and do what you're supposed to do out there. So let's get to a couple of these super chats. I'm just realizing. Roadhog says, does being head coach hurt Kyle to not being a top 5 OC, yet Wilkes is number 2 in the top 5 DCs according to the NFLPA? What are your thoughts?
100%. I mean, when you look at the offensive coordinators, how is Sean McVay and Mike McDaniel not in there? Because they're head coaches, right? I think that entire poll, it's strictly offensive coordinators. But that doesn't mean that Kyle shouldn't be in there. Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, like none of that means anything because they're head coaches. So I do think 100% that's what it means. If they were doing top head coaches, I think that would be a little bit biased because, I think a lot of people would just say, oh, my head coach is the best. Even if you're, I'm sure there's someone out there that before he got fired believed, Frank Reich is a really good head coach and they would have probably voted for him. But like when we're talking about strictly offensive coordinators, I think that's why you don't see Kyle, McVay, McDaniel, other guys, LaFleur, right? Like those guys that actually call the plays, you're not going to see them on there because they're head coaches.
Yeah. And I kind of went through I did a video on this earlier. Steve Wilkes, I mean, if you're looking at the way the 49ers defense stacks against the rest of the league, they're still pretty good. I mean, they're number 7 in overall total defense. I think where they struggled the most is pass defense and third downs. Like that's really where it comes down to. They're tied for 3rd in rush defense. They're 2nd in scoring defense. They're number 10 in red zone defense. So they're still doing a lot of good things. It's just when we look at third down, they're 21. They're ranked 21st in the league on third down, giving up a third down, first downs, 39. Basically 40% of the time. So that's a lot, right? So that's where I think we've had most of our concerns with the 49ers defense. But outside of that,
they've been good.
They've been doing well. I mean, you lose Talanoa Hufanga early on in the season. That's an all-pro player on your back end.
Yep. Drake Jackson doesn't become what you think he is. Drake Jackson doesn't become what you think he is. Like this,
they have to pivot at the end.
Yeah, they have to pivot at cornerback. They have to pivot at cornerback. Like for all
there's
the
a
people
lot
that
of
want
adjustments made. That's a good point. A lot of adjustments made.
For everybody who wanted Steve Wilkes fired, I think you have to understand that as much as this is a week-to-week reactionary league in terms of wins, you have to be able to give people credit, right? Like, and no one is complaining about Steve Wilkes at this point, right? So it's interesting to see how the league views Steve Wilkes as opposed to how, at times, 49ers fans looked at Steve Wilkes.
Yeah. So I think Steve's done a good job. I'm
job.
Pleasantly surprised. And because I think we can all objectively look at it is like we said, they've had to make adjustments because guys aren't doing what we thought they would do potentially. So that's part of being a good DC is being able to make those adjustments. And clearly he's connected with the guys. So
and I wanted to ask you something because again, back to the head coaching thing. I have to ask you, man. Like, I understand that a lot of people are like championing Kevin Stefanski for winning with 3 or 4 quarterbacks. Oh, by the way, Kyle Shanahan did that, and I don't understand how if you're going to give Coach of the Year to Kevin Stefanski, you don't give it to Kyle. But if D'Amico Ryans wins his win or go home game, how is D'Amico Ryans not Coach of the Year this year?
Yeah, with the rookie quarterback too.
It's just if you ask Texans players, they would say D'Amico is the best head coach in the game, and it's all subjective to who your coach is. Everybody rides for their head coach, right? So with a little bit of time, I have one more week. I have one more week before I make my PFWA, which isn't AP votes, by the way. I want to make sure that I make that clear. The AP votes are the ones that are actually PFWA kind of tells you where people are leaning.
Mhm.
But the AP awards are the ones. So I don't get a vote for the things that actually matter. I just want to make sure we make that clear. But I don't see how D'Amico Ryans is not the coach of the year, considering that team that he inherited, that culture that he inherited, a rookie quarterback. It's just insane to me that D'Amico Ryans is on the preface of being a playoff team with that team and all the injuries. I mean, you lose Tank Dell, Damian Pierce gets injured, and you find something in Devin Singletary, and those guys play their ass off for you. Even the guy that I liked in the draft, Jalen Petrie, kind of took a little bit of a step back this season as well too. It's hard for me to not look at the Houston Texans and say D'Amico Ryans might be coach of the year this year, especially if they make the playoffs and win this game against Indianapolis this week.
I mean, I love D'Amico. We knew after year one that he was going to be a head coach. We thought it was going to be directly after year one. Thankfully,
And
he
he stayed.
stayed another year. And when he left, I knew this dude's going to be a coach of the year eventually. And he's again already proving it. He's the perfect combination of former player and coach. He's the perfect combination of I'm going to get on your ass if you mess up, but I'm also going to put my arm around you and pick you up when you need to. He's the perfect coach. Like honestly, I love D'Amico. I think D'Amico's going to win Super Bowls with that team. He's got his quarterback. As they continue to build out that roster, the Texans are going to be a team that we're going to be looking at in the next 2 to 3 years as a real problem. And a lot of that has to do with the way D'Amico set it up. So if he doesn't get it this year, he'll get it. It's not a matter of if, it's when with D'Amico. He's that guy. So
100%.
I love D'Amico. I love everything that he did for us. You could see it right away. Just like you could see with McDaniels. Like, even though he's that little nerdy dude at the podium that looked like he didn't shower, like you could tell that he's a genius. And he also is built that same way. He'll put his arm around you when you need it, and he'll get on you when he has to. He's that combination that you're looking for of smarts, ability, just understanding when to pull the triggers and levers when you need to. So Kyle Shanahan continues to breed just amazing coaches from his tree. When we look back 20 years from now, the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, the Mike Shanahan coaching tree is just going to be insane. So those guys deserve a ton of credit for what they've been able to do. Delvin says, in the Super Bowl, I need a green law body slam. I miss real competition. RIP John Madden said, if your team doesn't win 10 games equals no playoffs. I don't know. I see you're shaking your head.
I don't need a body slam. I need a big hit. I need a boom. If we're gonna do John Madden stuff, I need a boom. Oh, wham. But please don't body slam anybody. We need you. We don't need 15 extra yards. Those moments are critical. But I do need green law to keep up the intensity. Just control it. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Trey's a freight train. He flies around the field so fast. But I agree. Like they're calling body slams as a personal penalty, as a penalty. Just don't do it. As much as he wants to, I've seen him restrain himself. I remember against the Dolphins last year, he was about to body slam Tyreek Hill, and he lifted him up, and he's like, "All right, I'm just going to put you back down."
Put him back down. Yeah.
So, I feel you though. I understand. Keith Murphy says Stefanski on 7 quarterbacks, he's going to be coach of the year.
It's a good argument. Just my argument, Keith, and thank you, man. Member for 3 months, man. Shout out to you, and make sure you subscribe to Keith's channel as well too. He's doing a bunch of content over there as well too. I just think that the argument against Kyle last season was, oh, you have all these elite playmakers around it, so it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. And again, Kyle's system is a bit of a detriment when it comes to evaluating players because you look at this offense as so quarterback friendly and everything as well too. But it's crazy to see people praise Kevin Stefanski for something that Kyle Shanahan just did last season. But I do see the sentiment. I do see the argument. But last season they gave it to Brian Dabble or Dable, however you want to put it, because of the turnaround the Giants had. They won a playoff game. They made the playoffs. That's cool and all. I don't disagree with the sentiment that Stefanski can be coach of the year. I disagree with the fact that now it's an argument for him, but it wasn't an argument for Kyle. And I think that goes back to Kyle's offensive system being a bit of a detriment when it comes to evaluating players because of how people view that offense, right? Anybody could be the quarterback. No, not anybody. Not anybody. Like, again, that's you downplaying Brock Purdy. But I do see the sentiment. I have a tough time running with that because they do have the best defense in the league. Them or Baltimore. Yeah, God, man, how do you go against Baltimore at this point? But it is impressive what Stefanski's done because now everybody has turned around and said nobody wants to see the Cleveland Browns in the playoffs, and Joe Flacco's their quarterback. Like, I think it's an argument. It's 100% valid. But I think there's a lot of teams that can make arguments like that. I mean, Dan Campbell's got Detroit winning their division for the first time. Again, there was a chance that Arthur Smith could have won that crazy division, right? Like, do you not look at him, even though I disagree with the way he uses personnel? Kyle Shanahan has a valid argument, right? Sean McVay has a very valid argument because of the way that the Rams were viewed going into the season and how they're playing right now. There's always an argument for somebody, right? I mean, you can make an argument almost every year for Mike Tomlin. The guy never has a losing season. So it's interesting to see how people quantify this award and what they will use as their parameters to get it done. But Stefanski has as good of a case as anybody does, and I wouldn't be upset if Kevin Stefanski won it. The question I have is, Kyle Shanahan literally just did this not 1 year ago. That's a Happy Gilmore reference.
Yep.
I disagree. Kyle Shanahan did this not 1 year ago. Well, moron, good for Happy Gilmore. Oh my God. But Kevin Stefanski does have a good case, and shout out to Keith, man. Appreciate it, bro.
Listen, like, if we're being honest, like, the reason why Kyle doesn't get talked about as in this breath is because it's almost like his success is being used against him. Like, everyone knows how good he is. Everyone knows what he's capable of. Like, look at what Brock Purdy is doing with a second-year quarterback that was Mr. Irrelevant coming off a serious injury. Like, whatever. I again, these accolades, it's fun to discuss and kind of talk back and forth about, but at the end of the day, man, it's a popularity contest. It's what have you done for me lately? And right now, Joe Flacco is capturing the hearts and souls of about all the football fans that like to get romantic about football and how he's going from the couch to playing some just insane balls. So it is what it is. Keith also says, and in the AFC North, we as SF know how tough that division, and last season they messed up. Kyle should have won it. Yeah, I thought Kyle should have won it last year for sure.
Yeah. But, the New York Football Giants, they weren't expected to do anything. Goes in there, changes the culture. They go in, they beat Minnesota. I mean, obviously it's a regular season award, but the Giants making the playoffs is nothing short of a small miracle. So I get that. And also, me being on the East Coast, I get to say it, East Coast bias.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So yeah. Anyways, as we know, season is coming to an end. It's been a good one. It's been a fun one. Been entertaining as usual. Anything else that you got before we get out of here based on the 49ers season finale coming up against the Rams?
Not really. I mean, right now, again, you just want to see guys get their legs under them. You want to make sure everybody's healthy. I think we all know that this team plays better when they have a little bit more health. In terms of health, obviously, but a week off. So I'm fine. I feel great. I think you couldn't have asked for a better scenario. You get the number 1 seed, easy done. Easy come, easy go. But yeah, the 49ers just have to execute. That's it. Execute.
Yep.
And I just, again, me bringing up the coach of the year thing is not to make people upset about it. It's just, just giving a little context to both situations. So for me, it's the 49ers are in a spot where they've achieved all their regular season goals. They know what the prize is. And I believe that this team absolutely knows what they should be playing for and what they should be focused on, and they are. So I think that's all that we should really be thinking about.
Yep. And again, there's two things. Just got to stay healthy and got to be ready to go. That's it. That's it. And the 49ers should be good to go. And then once the divisional round is up and out the way, this won't even be a conversation anymore. And then at that point, hey, I'm not going to look too far ahead. Not going to look too far ahead. We're gonna channel our inner Brock Purdy, and we're gonna stay one day at a time, one game at a time. And next game is the Rams, and so we'll see what the San Francisco 49ers do. But nonetheless, phenomenal year by Brock, who's not going to play, Christian McCaffrey, and even Tashawn Gibson. The fact, just a great effort by him since was signed off the streets as well. Locked down the starting safety spot, hasn't turned and hasn't given it up. So shout out to him. So it'll be interesting to see how the 49ers manage this game. I think that's just going to be the number one kind of element that everyone's looking for throughout this game. But again, keys are get out healthy, get out with the win if you can. Doesn't change anything one way or the other. Just stay healthy, stay ready to go. So you working on or cooking up anything else this week?
Yeah, NinersNation.com. I wrote an article about how much rest should the 49ers have, how long do you want them to play? I think it might be still open, but tomorrow we'll get to the results. So I'll be writing tomorrow, prop bets, all those things. I'm trying to look into incentives to see if we can lock in on some prop bets that'll work. And also, I want to give a shout out to Sour Death Sam. I'm going to be doing public access in person with Sour Death Sam in Brooklyn. I will be leaving here, going straight there. So if you aren't subscribed to Sour Death Sam's channel, public access is one of the most underrated shows in the world. In 49ers Twitter sphere easily. But him and I will be doing a show tonight around 9 or 10 Eastern time. So make sure you lock in for that face-to-face. Me and the beautiful Sour Death Sam will be talking 49ers football. So I'm pretty excited for that. So yeah, I'm again, this week feels like a little bit of a rest week for the 49ers, but there are things to keep your eyes on. And again, we'll see, we're going to get to watch people almost like the Hunger Games, like from a balcony, just like sit down and watch other people eliminate each other and be like, peasants, you have to play on wild card weekend. So just enjoy yourself this week, enjoy yourself the week after, and, get ready for the divisional game. I think that's more pressing, obviously. So we'll find out who the opponent is, but trust the 49ers, man. And Brad, again, third year, man. Love you, man. This show is, one of the highlights of my week for sure, man. And I'm glad that we decided to start this up.
Absolutely. It's crazy how much time flies, but I'm looking forward to another eventful postseason, but get through the Rams first. And then we'll get there. But like you said, we're vibing this weekend, not too much stress regarding what happens or any of that. So we're just we're waiting patiently, basically, as Jimmy Garoppolo once famously posted on Instagram. Anyways, we're out of here for now. Definitely go check out Patrick's channel, Sourdough Sam. I want get your affirmations ready, Jason.
I got them, and I may be apologizing. I may be apologizing to a special teamer.
Okay, one of the most underrated segments in 49ers content. So go check that out. Shout out to everyone, as always, for tapping in for State of the Franchise. That's Jason. I'm Brad. We're out of here. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.